This is G-Free Radio. Here's your host, Peter Stewart.
Episode 48 of the G-Free Radio Show, and this is what's in store. In our health news this week, how a gluten-free diet may protect bones in people with celiac disease. And we answer the question, can you have celiac disease if you don't suffer from diarrhea? In product news, the company that claims they've got the UK's first range of gluten-free chilled savoury products, how Starbucks is extending its range for celiacs, and changes to G-free alcohol labelling regulations in the US. For the final part of our series looking at various G-free bread manufacturers, we travel to Barnsley in South Yorkshire and hear from Janet Woodward from the Well Foods Bakery, and follow our step-by-step guide to making G-free banana bread direct from the G-free Radio Kitchen. And talking of recipes, we review the One-Off magazine that's got 100 gluten-free ones. Plus, there are our tweets of the week. Oh, and we look at how the changes to the laws on cannabis have helped celiacs in the state of Colorado. So just one interview this week, but we'll kind of balance that out and give you something a little bit different, because we're going to be starting a new kind of occasional series, not every week, but every month or so, a new series of, recipes, actually teaching you how to cook various gluten-free foods direct from the G-Free Radio Kitchen, as I mentioned a few moments ago. So this week it is banana bread, and I can attest that it is rather scrummy and rather yummy. So all that coming up a little bit later on in the show. First of all, as usual, we'll start off with our... Oh, hello, by the way. Hope you're well. I'm suffering, as it seems to be, from a little bit of a croaky voice this week, so bear with me. Let's hope we get through this show without too much of a hiccup. But we'll start off, as usual, with health news. And long-term damage to the intestines could raise the risk of hip fractures in people with celiac disease, a new study suggests. But... capital B-U-T, the research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism also found that the risk was lower in celiac disease patients who ate a gluten-free diet and whose intestinal tissue had begun to heal. And you know what? That is such good news, because it's the second week in a row that we've had good news for celiacs who stick to a gluten-free diet, and that is really reassuring. That kind of balances a little bit out the gloom and doom that sometimes we're presented with as people with celiac disease, however you spell it. And very often the list of problems associated, or medical problems associated with CD, get ever longer, don't they? Almost on a month-by-month basis. If you're wondering what I'm talking about that other good news, good health news issue that I was talking about, check out our podcast from last week. So, our research confirmed that patients had a higher rate of hip fractures when tissue damage persisted over time, according to study author Dr. Benjamin Lebvol of the Celiac Disease Centre at the Columbia University Medical Center. Sticking to a gluten-free diet is crucial for minimising tissue damage and reducing the risk of a serious fracture that could cause other complications. It's known that people with celiac disease are at heightened risk for broken bones, but it's not clear, or it wasn't clear until now, if their fracture risk remained high long after they began a gluten-free diet. So they've done that research, and that is the what they're thinking is the result of the numbers now that they have been crunched. We believe that giving the mucous membrane, the moist tissue lining the small intestine, a chance to heal can lower the risk of complications, including bone fractures, in celiac patients. That seems to be the nub, and indeed the gist, from that particular report. Here's another health item for you this week, and we pose the question, can you have celiac disease if you don't suffer from diarrhea? Indeed, that question was posed in celiacdisease.about.com, and the answer, you absolutely can have CD if you don't suffer from diarrhea. In fact, Studies show only a little more than 1/3 of people report diarrhea at diagnosis. Another 15% have constipation. And 30% don't have any gastrointestinal symptoms at all. So the advice from celiacdisease.about.com is, if your family doctor tells you that you can't have celiac disease because you don't have diarrhea and maybe because you're overweight, don't believe them. This article says they are just wrong. And from celiac.com, some great news for celiac and gluten intolerant people in Colorado. This intriguing story, which really caught our imagination and our attention earlier on this week. Legal marijuana sales began in Colorado on January the 1st this year, and new shop owners have been surprised to find a strong market for marijuana edibles. Maybe not that surprising. More and more makers of the marijuana cookies and so on, including a gluten-free selection. In some ways, it seems both natural and inevitable that the rising retail market for gluten-free good food and the rising retail market for edible cannabis products should overlap, and that seems to be what is happening in Colorado. All edibles sold in Colorado's marijuana retail outlets are produced in commercial facilities. Many are labelled for potency. Commercial gluten-free products must follow FDA labelling guidelines for purity. And it's like those Venn diagrams that we used to draw at school, isn't it? With the overlapping circles. You've got people with celiac disease here, people who want to partake in marijuana over here, and yeah, there's a little bit of overlap of those two circles. And you know what? If we had a pencil, then we could just shade in that overlapping circle, couldn't we? So a little bit later on, a new G-Free product in Starbucks in the UK and to the US for slight but very important, very significant changes to their labelling regulations for gluten-free alcohol. It's something which a lot of people have been calling for a very long time. Hopefully that change will reassure an awful lot of people as well. So it's the end of our look at various gluten-free bakeries. We've been around the United Kingdom. We've been abroad as well, looking at the various bakeries that produce gluten-free, well, breads and cakes and muffins and cookies and biscuits and so on. We've spoken to some of the biggest companies in the world and their particular countries. Some of the huge, well-known companies that we've spoken to, but also remember, I think we started off, didn't we, with one of the startup companies that was just kind of getting going and had just got their facility to be up and running, just taken delivery of all that shiny stainless steel cooking machinery and wrapping machinery and so on. Very, very exciting time. So maybe we'll catch up with that company again before the year is out and find out how their year is going. But for this particular episode, we'll go to South Yorkshire in the UK, and we'll go to the Well Foods Bakery and catch up with Janet Woodward.
I supply to a number of independent pizza houses up and down the country. It's not unknown for people to travel 50 miles to go for a gluten-free pizza.
Now, some of the pizzas can be quite thin and crispy, some of them can be thicker and more fluffy. Where does yours fit into that range?
It's more of the fluffy range, but it's there's so many ways to cook a pizza. It's the topping of having it your particular way. And it does make a difference because celiacs tend to be neglected, should we say, in the fast food market because you can't get a gluten-free pizza to take away. You can if you live in Doncaster or you live in Exeter, which is where I've got my two favourite stockists.
And without giving too much away, what makes your bread and the ingredients and the texture different from other breads on the market? Because it's a very difficult market to get into and stay in, isn't it?
It is our own special blend of flour, that's the start of it. And then it's the talent of the bakery force downstairs in Barnsley that makes it the way it is.
Because bread is going to, or the ingredients is going to react slightly differently without the gluten in, isn't it? So
yes, it does. But again, it's the way that it's made, and it's the talent of the bakers that makes such a difference.
So you're not giving anything away, are you? You're keeping this secret close to your chest?
I'm keeping it very close to my chest, because these people that create the bread downstairs for me do a fabulous job. So I don't actually make bread myself. I tend to make more goodies, should we say, cakes and pastries. Because I'm gluten-free, and if it wasn't for Antoinette, I would have never known I was gluten-free. But we feel neglected, so it's my challenge to make anything that I want, food-wise, that's gluten-free. And that's the way it is. So anything from a choux bun to a lemon shallow tart to, of course, a Yorkshire pudding. So, yeah, gluten-free. And that's the way it is.
Now, you've got several things here on the stand. We've spoken about the pizza bases. You've also got the rolls, and you've got some flour. That's the flour mix over there as well.
Flour, because obviously it comes to the bakery in 50 kilos, which is a little bit too much for the average celiac, even the way that we get through it. But so I've had it packed up for retail. And we've got burger buns that were really meant for 8-year-olds who get very stroppy when they can't have the same things as their friends. So that's why we've done it. We've got something for everybody and every eating situation.
And where can people get hold of these?
Email me at janet@wellfoods.co.uk and I will supply you with all the details.
Janet Woodward from the Well Foods Bakery, and we caught up with her at one of the recent celiac gluten-free trade fairs that we went along to. If you see us and our recorders at one of the gluten-free trade fairs near you, it does have to be said, it's more than likely going to be in the United Kingdom. You know, our finances and our budget don't stretch to us going abroad at this stage to go to the various expos, unless, of course, you're going to dig deep and you want us to appear there. So if you do see us at one of those expos in your neck of the woods, then tap us on the shoulder. We'll usually be very well branded up so you can spot us at 100 paces and ask us to interview you, or at the very least say hello and shake us warmly by the hand. That'd be fantastic to meet you, because our numbers of listeners are swelling week by week and month by month, and for that we really thank you. Thank you so much from everyone here at G-Free Radio. Oh, and I should have said in that last little bit, shouldn't I, that you can catch us on iTunes and YouTube. If you do catch us on iTunes, then please recommend us, leave a little message. It'd be lovely to know what you think of the programme, and click on that little star facility as well. Or maybe you're listening to us on our main platform, which is hosted by a company called Spreaker. It's like loudspeaker, but with an R in, Spreaker.com. And you know what? If you like us and follow us there, I'm sorry, it is a bit of a pain, but you do have to sign up to do that, so I'm sorry about that. Then what happens is, at a bit of a return, you do get notified whenever we post any new content, any new programmes. Okay, let's take a look at some other things which are happening around the world as far as gluten-free products go. And chilled quiche manufacturer Riverside Bakery has got what it claims is the UK's first range of gluten-free chilled savoury pastry products. This from just-food.com. The Too Good to Be Gluten-Free range will be stocked in Whole Food Market stores from the 8th of April. So I know there are several of those in London and elsewhere around the UK, elsewhere around the world as well. But I don't know whether you're going to be getting these foods just at the moment. The firm says further listings with supermarkets are being discussed. Riverside Bakery supplies chilled quiche, flans and savoury tarts in Asda, Sainsbury's and Marks and Spencer's. So we're talking about the gluten-free version going to be in the Whole Foods market. They're going to be launching in 3 phases: a slow-cooked beef and mushroom pie, a chorizo-topped frittata, mini cheese and bacon souffle, chocolate and morello cherry tart, and blueberry and vanilla cheesecake, and suggested recommended sales price going from £2.69, that's $4.47, to $3.99. Don't know how big they are. That sounds very reasonably priced range there, doesn't it? So some interesting items there. It's not too difficult to make your own frittata at home, is it, to be quite honest with you? It's just kind of a thick omelette. Mini cheese and bacon souffle, that sounds interesting. It's also nice that someone is doing something a little bit different in the dessert range, chocolate and morello cherry tart. Blueberry and vanilla cheesecake, I can probably take or leave that, but I like the idea of the slow-cooked beef and mushroom pie, although I'm moving away from too many meat products. But that's really, really interesting. And, of course, the problem that they've got when they're trying to get into the mainline supermarkets, mentioned there Asda, Sainsbury's, Marks and Sparks, is because that I'm not aware that any of those above-mentioned supermarkets, or indeed any of the others, have a gluten-free section in their fridges. You know, we've got a section in the freezer aisle and also in the main aisle with your packets and tins and so on. But we don't actually have a section, as far as I know, in the supermarket chilled aisle. So that's probably a bit of a problem for them at this stage. And I know that was a similar issue for podology that they have as well. They have to kind of jostle for position in the general chilled aisle. Moving along, and Newburn Bakehouse by Warburtons have told me that Starbucks are going to be stocking the Newburn Bakehouse seeded wrap in selected stores across the UK. Veggie Good Hummus wrap it consists of Newburn Bakehouse gluten-free seeded wrap packed with chargrilled vegetables, Moroccan spice chutney with a delicious lemon and coriander hummus. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Starbucks are planning to roll the Veggie Good Hummus wrap out to all of their UK stores in April. They say it'll account for one of your 5 a day, selling at $2.99 if you... $2.99 if you dine in, or $3.59 to take away. I can't help thinking that that's the wrong pricing structure, and that maybe they could have got that a little bit more. You're usually charged more to eat in and less to take away. But anyway, $2.99 or $3.59. Don't know how big that is. I'm going to be having a look out for that in the not too distant future. That sounds interesting indeed. Was told that by Naomi, and also one of our good friends, Alicia, has spoken to us as well and reminded us that the gluten and wheat-free dietary special brown ciabatta rolls are still around, high in fibre, low in saturated fat. And she makes the suggestion, warm in the oven and dip in olive oil. I haven't done that for a long, long time. And they've got a quote here from a judge from a recent competition. A really outstanding product, really manages to successfully mimic the texture of real bread. Available in Asda, Morrison's, Co-op, Waitrose and Tesco, which is interesting stuff. So, I'll give you a heads up on this, guys. Anyone that's listening, those items have not been paid for. Those mentions not paid for. Naomi has given me information about that Starbucks, and Alicia did send me 4 of those rolls, not paid for. We're not taking any money on this at the moment. We're coming up to our first anniversary. So, you may consider what we may be doing in the future as far as the free plugs go. And can you blame us, frankly? Okay. Also, this is coming in from the US. The Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau has altered its guidelines for beverages that claim to be gluten-free. The agency says that bottlers that claim beverages made from products that contain gluten can no longer be labelled gluten-free, as it's misleading to consumers. Under the new policy, alcohol makers that treat their products to remove gluten must state that on their labels, along with a warning that the product, quote, may contain gluten. In accordance with the FDA, products like wines that are fermented with grapes can continue to label their products as gluten-free. So we've spoken to various beer lager manufacturers here in the UK, some of whom say our products never had gluten in because we make the drinks out of millet or something like that, so a naturally gluten-free grain. Other companies say, you know what, we brew with hops and then we take all the gluten out afterwards. So, that's what we're talking about here in the United States, those kind of companies that brew their beer or their lager with gluten-containing grains and then take that gluten out afterwards. According to this new regulation, it's got to say may contain gluten, and it's got to say that gluten was removed, but as I say, still might be there. Join us, won't you, in a few minutes' time as we learn how to make gluten-free banana bread. Oh, gosh, my mouth is watering already. And that courtesy of Deborah from glutenfreebaking.co.uk. First of all, bring you this very quick item. The lowdown on gluten-free baking spotted this from foodretro.com. And it says, when I went gluten-free about 4 years ago, I attempted baking only to end up with disaster after disaster. I discovered that it is hard. Everything I knew about baking no longer applied. It's a whole new ball game. First, you've got to eat gluten-free baking almost immediately because it goes stale quickly. Second, gluten-free ingredients are complicated. So tapioca flour and tapioca starch are the same thing. Recipes seem to use the names interchangeably, but potato flour and potato starch are not. They should have been listening to our feature on the various gluten-free grains and flours that we were running a couple of months ago, shouldn't they? You cannot substitute any one flour for wheat flour. It's got to be a mixture, plus possibly something like xanthan gum or guar gum to give it a similar consistency to gluten. And thirdly, don't expect your baked goods to have the same consistency as if it was made with wheat flour. Well, some of those things we've spoken about in the past. And also they're just the kind of things that you will understand a little bit more with hands-on experience if you go to a gluten-free baking course. The one that we've been on and therefore recommend is via glutenfreebaking.co.uk. And if you want to hear how we got on at the course that we did go on in London a few weeks ago, listen to last week's episode of the G3 radio show and you'll get a little idea, a little snapshot, a little taster, if you would, see what I did there, about how we got on and what we made. One of the items was bread. We also made some little tarts and some pastry and so on. And this week, Deborah Thackeray from glutenfreebaking.co.uk is going to join us in the G3 Radio kitchen and show us how to make banana bread. Gluten-free, of course.
Hello, my name's Deborah Thackeray. I'm from a company called Gluten-Free Baking and Living. I teach people how to bake gluten-free on courses in London, the Wirral, Sheffield, and also I have at-home courses that people can download. Today we're going to make banana bread. It's a really simple, pretty well foolproof gluten-free cake and tastes absolutely delicious. What you're going to need in terms of ingredients is 75 grams of unsalted butter at room temperature, 110 grams of light soft brown sugar, 2 eggs, 2 ripe bananas which you've mashed up in a bowl, 200 grams of Dove's Farm gluten-free white plain flour blend, 2 teaspoons of gluten-free baking powder, half a teaspoon of bicarb of soda, half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, half a teaspoon of salt, and then you can also put 50 grams of chopped walnuts in if you want. You want to get your oven preheating to 170 degrees centigrade. That's 330 degrees Fahrenheit, or about gas mark 3. Line a 2-pound loaf tin with baking parchment, which I've already done. Weigh out the butter, mash it slightly with a fork so it's really soft, and to that I'm going to add my 110 grams of light soft brown sugar. So now I'm creaming the butter and sugar together. What I'm aiming for is a soft sort of golden paste, and the more you stir it, the lighter it's going to become in colour. Now what I'm going to do is to add my eggs to that. See, the colour is now changing. So that's 1 egg, thoroughly beaten in. So we've now got quite a sort of runny butter, sugar and egg mixture. So I've got the mashed banana in another bowl and I'm going to scoop that out into my butter and sugar mixture. Banana in a cake, it helps with the sweetness. In a gluten-free cake, it really helps sort of bind the mixture together. Put the bowl back onto the scales and I weigh out 200 grams of the Dove's plain flour blend. So I'm now folding that in. So I'm putting in here a couple of teaspoons of the baking powder, and I'm putting in half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And at the same time, I'm going to add my nutmeg in. Now I'm folding this round and round, giving it a good stir. I've got a very nice kind of gloopy light brown mixture now. The only thing that's left to go into that now, I think, is the nuts. Putting nuts and seeds into cakes really helps with the nutritional content because there's always trace minerals and vitamins in nuts, as well as the flavour, you know. Okay, I'm going to give that a good stir. Make sure that it's incorporated really well. So what I'm going to do now is to tip that into my greased and lined 2-pound loaf tin. Using the back of a spoon, spread the mixture out so that it's sort of fairly smooth. And that goes into the oven for about 40 minutes. I often cover it with another piece of baking parchment just to stop it catching on the top before it's fully cooked all the way through. And then I take the baking parchment off for the last 10 minutes or so. So it'll probably take about 50 minutes in total.
And we'll join Deborah again a little bit later on in the show, just before we leave, to find out how that gluten-free banana bread has turned out. OK, let's look at our tweets of the week this week. And these are a few of the items, the messages, the 140 characters that have caught our attention. Gluten-free Wheeling tweeted in the last week, of all the gluten things I miss the most, it's barley, whole grains in soups and casseroles, perfect on an autumn day like today. Well, as we're recording this, the sun is blazing. So it's a fantastic, almost summer's day here. It's been 19, 20 degrees in London today, which has been fantastic. But yeah, there's nothing like a warming soup or casserole, and certainly adding barley does give it that extra taste and extra bulk as well, doesn't it? So it's a shame that we can't have that anymore. Kathy Casey, who goes by the name of Kathy Casey Chef, did you know you can type compare then any two foods into Google and it'll give you the nutritional information? And we did that and it works. So you can put apple, compare orange, and it'll tell you what the best fruit is for you. So that's really, and it's also quite fun to do if you put in like something like chicken and chocolate or something like that, and compare two really different things as well. Gluten-free foodies, who go by GF Foodies, are not a fun fact. They tweeted in the week that it only takes 1/64th of a teaspoon of gluten to cause intestinal damage to a celiac. Bit of a worrying stat there. And also, let's have a little scroll down here as well. This was interesting. From Chic Weekend, I'm so relieved I was born in the time of waterproof mascara, tampons, and gluten-free cupcakes. You know what? Chic Weekend, that kind of puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Got another couple more here. The more we ban gluten, the black market demand for it skyrockets, and the Mexican gluten cartels make a killing. I love that. From Harrow Dean on Twitter during the course of the week. And here's another one in a kind of similar vein from Dave Del Gobbo. If I wanted to make serious dollars, I would convince 80% of people they had something only 1% actually do. By the way, this gluten-free sandwich is delicious. I kind of understand the cynicism there. Also this from Kayla Hausar. I think gluten-free pretzels are the loudest snack ever. You know what, there might be something to do with that, mightn't there? I think there's a bit of truth there. And from Tululalura, feeding the chickens our scraps of quinoa and tofu, gluten-free dumplings, feels slightly ludicrous. And finally, for the moment, from @Telegraph Food, a study which finds that a single pint of cider, which is usually my long drink of choice, because I don't go for the gluten-free lagers or beers, I prefer the cider. A study finds a single pint of cider contains almost as much sugar as the World Health Organization recommends should be a person's daily limit. Check that out.
Follow us on Twitter. We're @GFreeRadio.
A couple of things before we go. First of all, let's have a quick look at this new magazine that's out. It seems to be the Healthy Food magazine, and what they've done is they've taken all of the gluten-free recipes from all of their magazines over the months and years and put it together into one magazine. It's one of these kind of book-type magazines. You know the kind of thing, it's a bit thicker than an ordinary magazine. It's a little bit more glossy, and they double the price. This one $4.99, which I paid for myself. I got it in the Sainsbury's store that I frequent. 100 gluten-free recipes, expert advice for celiacs and wheat-free cooks. So we thought we'd take this so we could give it a bit of a review. So what have we got here? We got pages 6 and 7 is the from our specialist dietitian. What is gluten? Easy swaps, check labels, better labelling, and the celiac connection and where to get help. And that So expert advice for celiacs and wheat-free cooks is actually just the 2 pages, and then 100 recipes. Okay, give me a number between page 8 and page 100 and... What does it go up to? What's the last page? 112. Give me a number. What's that? 68? You were nearly rude there, weren't you? 68. Let's just see. This is genuine. Well, not genuine that I heard someone shout out 68, but it's genuine that I just thought of that number. 68. Page 68. Lemon risotto with cheesy crumb topping. Okay, that sounds quite nice, doesn't it? That's good. What are they making? A Borio rice. Cannellini beans. Okay, that sounds quite nice. Give me another number. 27, Peter. 27, page 27. No adverts in this. It is just ram jam rodigand full of recipes. Lemon and sesame chicken with sweet potatoes, new potatoes, and carrots, and obviously sesame seeds. And one more number, if you would. Okay, let's go for 99. Page 99 as opposed to recipe 99. And it is 99 chocolate chip and pistachio pots. Haven't tried any of these. They look quite good. The layout is pretty good as well. It's always nice to have lots of recipes all in one place. I don't know about you. I'm actually quite fed up with people buying me for Christmas and birthday presents yet another gluten-free recipe book. Give me a proper present. You know what I mean? Give me a treat. Perhaps it's just me. Oh, what's that? I can smell wafting from the G-Free Radio kitchen. I think I can. I'll say goodbye. Let's join Deborah again in the kitchen. Let's see how that banana bread's getting on, shall we?
Okay, so the banana bread's now had 50 minutes in total in the oven. After 40, I went in and I took off the piece of baking parchment off the top. But now it should be completely ready. I'm going to open the oven and I'm going to test it with a sharp knife just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through and that no mixture comes out on the knife. Yep, that's fine. So I'm going to lift it out of the oven and I'm going to put it on a wire cooling rack in the tin for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to lift it out in the baking parchment so that it can cool down properly. And once it's cold, it can be sliced. So here it is. It's had 5 minutes just resting on the cooling rack. And now there it is. Lovely homemade banana bread. It's gorgeous buttered.